Julianne DeSa Lorenz, today's guest, is the CEO of Online Instrument Systems, Inc. The daughter of a genius who began coding when she was just 6, she now runs the biotech company he founded. She's focused on reducing waste in the lab, aided by the company's technology. She'll share insights about her work and her superpower. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show, where we empower you. Julianne, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation today. I'm so excited to visit with you.
Oh, thank you, Devin. I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
Well, thank you very, very much for being here. You are a big deal, and that's kind of fun for us to have, a CEO on the show. Tell us a little bit about your company and your father's legacy that you carry on.
Well, thank you. It is a special company in that we're one of the few American manufacturers of high-end laboratory instruments. And we got our start back in the 70s when my father, a research biochemist, had learned to program computers. And this was, of course, years before the PC came along. And so he started writing software for his own laboratory instruments, publishing the work as part of his research in bioluminescence. And others read it and they were like, how can we get computers on our instruments? And so after a short period of time, he recognized that there was literally a potential here to sell the software rather than gift it away, which he had been doing for a period of time. And for 15 years, that's what our company did, was upcycle best quality equipment that already existed, but which was produced during that heyday of time in science in America, the 50s and 60s, when the government was just pouring money into research. But these machines were pre-PC. It wasn't until the 90s that we started producing some of our own equipment, and all of it has the same intention of being upgradable. So just as we started with the older equipment and upgraded it electromechanically and computer-wise, the instruments, what we started building from scratch ourselves, were designed also to allow this designed-in upgradability to keep them in use for decades, rather than the finite period of time that today we've gotten too used to products lasting.
Well, our audience is not concentrated in folks who use this lab equipment, but take just a short few seconds to tell us a little bit about how scientists use this equipment, what it's used for. I worked for a company 30 years ago, back in the 90s, that had a lot of this kind of equipment, probably some of yours, but tell us a little bit about it.
Spectrophotometers are looking at molecules with light. So you and I can see the color of the clothes that we're wearing, the paint behind us, the color of our blood in our bodies. And spectrophotometers measure these things. And we as consumers like for things to be measured very accurately. So that's a direction that our company is moving in more recent time. Historically, again, we were founded by a biochemist. So our early years were done for basic research in blood, really, you name a molecule that has to do with pharmaceuticals, vaccine development, that sort of thing. A lot of basic research. Algae, that's a big thing that, we want algae to be used for as an alternative fuel source. And so you have to understand algae in order to grow it to an optimal level. And that's the kind of thing that spectrophotometers are used for.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Now, one of your focuses in recent years has become on reducing waste. Tell us a little bit about your efforts to reduce waste in science.
Absolutely. Well, it's always been my love of this company was that we were upcycling equipment. So we were therefore reducing the wasted instrumentation, extending its lifespan. But a product that my father developed back around 2000 or so dramatically simplifies the preparation of a sample for a measurement. The irony about all the things that you and I just talked about that you and I can see, spectrophotometers can't see unless they're clarified, unless they are clear. Well, what's clear? Literally nothing unless it's produced in a laboratory with a lot of consumables, a lot of effort, a lot of water waste, et cetera, et cetera. And so being able to make accurate measurements without all of that waste production, in the process is just an enormous thing. Because, first time I visited a laboratory, just for practical sake, talking about a beer laboratory, beakers and beakers and beakers and funnels and all this effort. And I have this little machine, and I'm like, in 4 seconds, I can make this measurement for you, rather than you having to go through all of this effort. And so, needless to say, we're very optimistic that we will be making an impact in the beverage industry in reducing waste in their laboratories. And then to extrapolate that, to other areas as well. Again, vaccine production and water management, algae bloom growth, lots of things that the technology can be used for.
Yeah. It's a fascinating space. As you think about your father's legacy and the work that you carry on, what's most important to you?
The fact that we live this remarkable time right now where technology is just continuously evolving and improving, and recognizing that we can implement the very best in order to get the best answers, while also reducing waste, while also reducing redundancy. And it's so important, because there's nothing that you and I can think about that makes our lives convenient today that wasn't developed by a scientist somewhere along the line, some facet of it. And to give them better tools that make it more efficient for them to do their work, costing them less money, because of course all these consumables that I'm talking about them wasting cost money. They have to buy them, they have to be produced, they have to buy them, they have to use them, they have to then get rid of them. Something we haven't touched on is animal waste. I loathe this topic, but it's something that's really true in research, is how many animals have been used in science. And the fact that I know that we are reducing the number of animals being sacrificed in the name of better eye drops or whatever it is for us is really valuable. And then from the researcher side of view, of course he wants to use fewer animals and have less waste at the other end. And so it all works together to better results, less waste.
Yeah. As you think about, you've had a remarkable career, and to be the CEO of a company, especially a scientific company, I think there's some pretty good data that there are not a lot of women in science in America, something we ought to change. But you are an unusual person in that regard. What do you see as your superpower?
Well, it's kind of twofold. On the one hand, I have this incredible commitment to something that I started and that I saw the value in, and I've stayed with it for my entire life. And I read a beautiful quote the other day: the irony of commitment is how liberating it can be. And that's really true. I've been liberated by the fact that there's never been a plan B. I'm going to get these products used by as many people as possible for the betterment of mankind. Yay. The other side of that is that I am so growth oriented. I'm constantly learning, taking on new things. I'm not at all intimidated by new technology, by new problems, by new environments, by new applications. My husband's like, do you always have to be taking a class? And the answer is yes. And they're fun classes. Last year I took the Inner MBA program and I got certified, another 200 hours of yoga training. So I try to keep a balanced life here while staying very, very focused with this commitment to online instrument systems.
Yeah. As you think about commitment, I imagine that over your life and career, you've achieved a lot of things where you recognize that the key to success was the commitment, kind of an undeviating commitment. Can you think of an example that you could share with us?
Work-related wise?
Work or personal?
Yeah, no, I just, no matter where the winds have taken us, and over the decades, we've been through a lot of ups and downs. I got on my knees, or whatever it took, to ride through it. But even in the worst of times, I would literally say there is no plan B. This has to work. And that assurance that it was going to work made it possible for me to get up off the floor and come back into the office and do what needed to be done in order to do it. And then, of course, once you ride over, through that deepest of valleys, then, of course, you're back up on another upswing again. And I mean, that's the beauty of life. I mean, the cycles just never change. They never end. There's after every mountain, there's a valley, and you just have to not get discouraged by the valleys, but recognize that this too shall pass, and as long as I don't quit. Because of course the quitting is when things end, and if you don't quit, then it hasn't ended yet.
That's right. That's a great point. There are a lot of people who don't have your sense of commitment and want it. They want to find something they can really commit to, and then commit to it. Right. Let's assume for a minute that someone has found that thing they want to commit to, but they don't know how to do it. How would you coach someone to really commit to something that they are eager to commit to and stay with it through the long haul?
That's kind of like saying, how do you know how to stay in a marriage? It's really, it's a decision that I've made. I can look around and I can say, there's so many other things that I could be doing. I could be teaching the Enneagram. I could be, who knows what I could be doing if I weren't doing this. But again, the irony of commitment is it takes the question marks away. It's just, this is what I'm doing. This is what I do. And as long as you've got that, I mean, I can't not do this. I mean, I really can't. And I wish everyone could find something that they're that passionate about, where they just feel like, this is what my purpose is. This is what I was made to do. This feels right, and then just don't lose that initial assurance, that go back and remember why it felt so good, and tap into that when you're feeling low. Because again, the valleys are going to happen. The self-doubt's going to come along. The other opportunities will present themselves. Well, do any of those things have that resonance, that heft that your early commitment felt? And yeah, I've given up a lot over the years to do this, but no regrets, hopefully.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Julie, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We're so grateful. Before we wrap up, I wonder if I can invite you to take a minute and tell us more about your business in terms of how people can learn more, maybe a website, share, if you would, the other contact information for you. I know people will want to be in touch with you, but let people know the best way to follow you, perhaps on social media and that sort of thing.
Thank you. I am on LinkedIn, Julianne DeSa Lorenz. It's 4 names, but none of them are very long. And the company website is olisclarity.com. And that's interesting. OLIS, O-L-I-S, is the acronym for Online Instrument Systems, our name. And then I appended the clarity to it years ago after developing this instrument for reducing waste in science. So the name goes together. And there you will find all kinds of cool things about not only the clarity, but some of the other things that we've done. You'll see some information on my dad, who's a genius and still alive and kicking, as he likes to say, whenever you ask him how he's doing.
Good. Well, fantastic. Julie, thank you very much for being with us today. We wish you all the success in the world as you're in your efforts to reduce waste in the world, especially in science.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much for your time.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Superpowers for Good show. Twice each week, we host changemakers who share their impact, insights, and superpowers. Don't miss another episode. Subscribe today at superpowersforgood.com. That's superpowers, 4, good.com. Be super empowered. Get your copy of the book, Superpowers for Good as an ebook, audiobook, paperback, or hardcover edition via your favorite online retailer. Interested in having me speak to your company, organization, or association? Visit devinthorpe.com. Then let's talk. Now, keep using your superpowers for good. Together, we can reverse climate change, improve global health, and eradicate poverty.